Hi, this is Paul. When I was leaving the country for a little while, I didn't know what would happen to the channel, and Joy recommended that I run reruns. And I didn't like that idea. I don't like re-preaching sermons. I don't generally like reruns. But with all of the conversation about on-ramping to this little corner and bringing people up to speed the other day, I noticed how Grim sort of regularly brings up old content and puts them in his stream. And on one hand, that's obviously a way to get easy content. But on the other hand, what Grim said was, and I think he was exactly right, this sort of lets people in on all the inside jokes and on all the inside conversations. Now, I've been doing this over 4 years now, and I have a ton of content, as many of you know, and I'm not about to sort of repeat it all. But there are individuals and moments and people that do deserve to sort of be brought forward so that others can know about them and kind of be brought up to speed. So, given the fact that I got this idea from Grizwald Grim, the man himself, I thought his conversation might be a good one to inaugurate sort of the on ramp rewind series. And given that it's Wednesday today, I'm going to Thursday is a holiday. It's American Thanksgiving. Friday, I'm going to have family in town, so I'm not going to work Friday. I'm not going to make videos on Friday. At least I'm not going to make any videos for you on Friday. Saturday, you'll get the rough draft for Sunday. Sunday will be Sunday. I probably won't have a video on Monday. I don't know. I'll have to see how I sort of parse out the videos. But yeah, so I thought, and I also thought that for me, I started watching this video again and thought, I don't remember all the videos and all the conversations that I've made. Now let me know if this video is a little stuttery. I'm still working through equipment issues. I'm looking at StreamYard. Jacob's been bothering me to use StreamYard for more things, and I've got some ideas about how I can use StreamYard. So yeah, so here is the conversation, the first conversation between myself and Grizwald Grim. And so for those of you who don't know him, at least to one degree or another, the man behind the channel, this will be a great introduction to him. So leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Duped by a pastor. How have you been duped? How have I? I've always admitted I'm a pastor. I got all these books behind me. What else am I supposed to be?
No, it was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have to push it back, man. You can relax. It's not gonna be then." And then, oh, I'm on time, buddy. So that was the duping.
You can relax anyway.
Good. It's nice to have you in a Zoom. It's quite the honor in this little sphere of influence or whatever it is.
Very little sphere. Well,
Yeah.
what do you want to do? Shall we start with your story or?
Yeah, I figure like it feels like I know you, so I should try and get you closer to that before and then see where it goes from there.
That sounds good.
Um, I guess for your audience and whatnot, that the story between me and God is the most relevant backstory part.
You could start wherever you think you should. So.
Oh, okay then. It all went south when I was 8. You see, my my friend's older brother had Dungeons and Dragons, and I saw in the box it said you should be 10 or older to play, and I was only 8, but I played anyway. And, it's surprisingly how that sort of thing shapes my life. Like
Really?
as I look back on it, but
well, tell me about your parents. Tell me about the house you grew up in.
Okay, I am double bastard latchkey, which
Wow.
my mom was an unwanted pregnancy, and that was evident in her rearing, and then she had me, and the story I got was that the father said to have an abortion, and she took off. When I met him when I was 30, he's like, I didn't know she was pregnant, and he was 17. So I cut him all sorts of slack because by then I had been 17, you know. Um, and then she got in the military, and the story I got was that at the time, if you were active duty military, you had to have a guardian in case you went to war. It had to be somebody else to watch the kid. And so for the first, like between 3 and 9, I was raised by my grandmother, who had her son living with her and lived next door to her father, my great grandfather, which that is such a beautiful childhood compared to like so many of the people I've met.
Wow.
Like I knew everybody in the neighborhood.
Hmm.
Just I see acutely what my generation has lost with the way everybody's like inside now.
Yeah.
So, but then when I was 9 or 10, she finished her overseas tour, and I got to go with her. I guess the rules changed or whatever, but I got to go with her, and she took me to Hawaii for 3 years. And that was not good for our relationship. For me to be, I didn't take it well. I didn't take it well to have all that ripped out, and then this lady I barely knew raising me now.
Wow. In a different place too.
And the only church in all that time was one of my grandmother's brothers took me once, and it felt like God's waiting room, because it was just old people. Like it was dusty, and it was like, okay, you know, there was no life in it in the one I went to. I didn't feel it anyway.
Yeah.
Hawaii, that's when I started getting raised by television, I think. There was no male role models, and my mom didn't date or whatnot. So there was neighbors and television to model what was male. Our neighbors were Christian and they were super nice, but I didn't go to church with them. Relevance.
Oh, this is all good. I mean, it is relevant. It's very relevant. I mean, we're so, it sounds cliche in the psychological age, but those early years are so important in ways that we don't notice until far later. So, okay, well, high school, what was high school like?
I just remembered before I get out of that, when I was in those, when I landed in Hawaii, it was about the time Unsolved Mysteries came on. And so like Star Trek, The Next Gen, and Unsolved Mysteries were really formative in shaping me, and particularly Unsolved Mysteries, I think, because I don't know if it was McKenna's time wave or something, but there was this one episode where the computer simulation stopped at 2012. And like, so that date stuck in my mind forever. And later, like in high school, I developed suicidality. And so I ended up setting a major life point at that date, saying that's my personal apocalypse. I don't care if the rest of the world ends. If I don't end it by then that's off the table. And like when you struggle with not wanting to be on the planet, like you make all sorts of bargains and excuses and things like that to get it off the table for a while.
Yeah.
High school was when I discovered, junior high, I discovered I wasn't pretty. And after Hawaii, we landed in Oklahoma, which was like bars and churches. It was an Air Force town, so we have a lot more people than most places in Oklahoma. And we have all sorts of bars and all sorts of churches. So God was offered in a lot of different flavors. And the Baptist one was real popular because then you could still go out on Saturday nights as long as you made it to church on Sunday. And so it was like everybody was wrong, clearly. It was like, and so I got to eventually I come to the point where it's all right, everybody's a little bit right. Like a broken clock is right twice a day. So everybody's got a piece. And if I can go around and get all the right pieces, then I can have something I can work with. But yeah. still gathering pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
um, all right, I'm tapped. Give me something like
All right. Well,
either
high
ask or take or
school
something.
bars and you're really good. You're good at this. COD was offered in lots of flavors. I'm just I'm going to rob you blind in some of these things. High school. What was high school like? Well, you said suicidality.
Yeah.
Did you have friends?
I fell in with a group that wore the black trench coats and listened to the heavy metal.
Ah, okay.
And I think my cervical MRI shows evidence of hanging out with those people. But it was as everybody finds a spot in their clique, and that was the one that people left alone
Okay.
a lot. I
Okay.
I found myself a bit of a writer. I was
Oh,
leaning into that was appealing, the writing thing.
okay.
Stephen King, a whole lot of influence from Stephen King in that time. That's
So, drugs, alcohol, not so much.
no, I was sheltered and a good boy. It's like
Okay.
I learned like where the rules were,
Okay.
and as long as I could keep myself out of trouble, I could do what I wanted. So it was like there are the boundaries.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
can go
Yeah.
as far as you
Yeah.
want.
Your freedom was in there. What'd you do after high school?
I took a year off because um, being born in September, I ended up being a year younger than everybody.
Yeah.
So I took a year off, and then I went into community college because I didn't I didn't want the commitment of a student loan, but then I discovered credit cards and found out the other way they get you. So it was about it was in my 20s when I was like driving downtown one day. It was in the winter, and it was like the only reason any of these people want me here is because they want my money. This is
Hmm.
where they eat, and I've had like this. You get the way money comes from being terrible to other people makes like my relationship with it was like stunted, twisted, distorted. It's like it's not it's like today it's a substitute for trust, and that's what's wrong with it. Um it lets you do business with people you wouldn't do business with, and that's how they're getting ahead. But global economics is probably not good for our first direct.
What'd you do for work?
I played a lot of video games. That's what happened. I discovered I said, all right, well, I looked around from what the media was feeding me and society in general, and kind of checked out. I was like, I'm a flyover person from a Walmart state, and I don't even want to be in what the rich world looks like. So there was nowhere to go. And so I just NPC'd. Like the goal became NPC as much as I have to, so that I can go be in the digital world where I can be important, where I have a shot at being important. I did fall in with the Pentecostals for a while, which might be relevant. I got baptized in a Pentecostal church. Apostolic Truth was the brand name. I had messed around with the First Assembly of God a little bit through a friend in high school, but their acronym just shows that they're not paying very close attention. So I ended up going into that church after losing a particular relationship with a female. She went back to her husband. It's
Wow. You were
yeah.
having a relationship with a married woman.
They had I had my morality was okay with it because they had separated to the point she had her own place.
Oh, okay.
And it seems like something about the nature of my relationships turned out to be that I was somebody that women use to either leave their man or feel better after a bad break. I was a rebounder. I was like, get back out there, girl. But it was really hard on me. And
Yeah, I guess so.
but it was one of the most profound experiences of my life happened then, and it was God related, I think, because like right before the breakup, when she came back from this, she broke up with me, but she had gone because like one of her older relatives was passing, and she was pregnant at the time, um, and I was left house sitting her and her mother's chihuahuas, because I was the nice guy.
Yeah.
And they hated me constantly while I was awake. But whenever I went to sleep, they wanted my body heat, so they would jump up in there. And I was they bark at me all the time and then come sleep. And, it's a weird relationship. But and I'm working overnight, so I'm sleeping during the day. About 11 o'clock in the morning, I go to bed, and I hear the most beautiful sound I've ever heard, and it comes in kind of like the way when you're tuning something in on the radio, it'll cut in and out, but there was no static. It was just a tuning in and out part.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I could describe it now is like it's the music of the Spheres guys.
Hmm.
But it was as close to a supernatural experience as I had ever had. And so after the breakup, I end up in a church. And before I discover about this whole unforgivable blasphemy against the Holy Spirit thing, I'm in a Pentecostal church and like referring to receiving the Holy Spirit as getting the juice. So when I got baptized and it didn't happen, it was like, what do you do? It feels like being rejected by God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's hard not to fall out of whatever church whatever God you had found prior to that, right? Yeah, I wanted you to know about that part of my path.
So how did it go in the church? I mean, was the rejection a big piece of why it didn't take, or were there other things that came into your life? What happened?
One of the younger girls in the church made a pass at me, like after this stuff.
Had she just broken up too with someone, a transitional figure?
I don't. There's a lot of poverty in the town, so like
Okay.
I probably look like security, and and when you're Pentecostal in this sinly world, your pickings are pretty slim. But yeah, that was super awkward for me and then on top of everything else, well, I finally fell out of I quit going to church, and when I saw Fight Club, honestly,
Huh.
I got swept up in the nihilism. I really resonated with the "you are not your job, you are not that thing," and I'm sticking it to the man, and because like the corruption was then as now terribly evident, and nobody's doing anything.
Yeah.
Kept yelling about, come on, politicians who don't change anything, change something this time. Oh, my guy, I'll change it. No, yeah. And so the road to nihilism was more appealing than felt like aging in a church that there's no estuary, which is why what like you talking about that sort of thing reeled me in a whole lot. It's like, let's bring the living waters to these starving people, y'all. And I'm like, you know how bad it is out here, man? Are you sure that like I have seen things. When you go searching and you're searching in like you can get some good stuff from the craziest of places, you end up listening to channeling and stuff. It's like, the Christians got this bush talk to a guy. Like this lady's got some sixth dimensional being coming through her, and the stuff he's saying is on point.
Yeah.
And just nobody else will look at it because it's coming through some lady.
Yeah.
Instead of a bush.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to do. Yeah.
So where are you living at now? if you want to say. If you don't have to say if you don't want to, of course.
I'm still in Oklahoma at the
Still
moment.
in Oklahoma. Okay. And now you mentioned you were working nights. What kind of work were you doing?
I was a Walmart person. I
Oh,
was
okay.
stocking the shelves, so I didn't have to deal with a whole lot of people. The stores are pretty empty, and manual labor passes the time pretty
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. 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 You still working nights or you working days now? What are you doing?
Now I am living off the generosity of others
Oh.
as best I can. Um, I think it was a charity thing, but like I've been kept employed as a medical transcriptionist for the last 3 years,
Huh. What?
despite the fact that like his phone can do it. And I've recently fallen far enough behind that I'm like, dude, your phone can do this. Why don't you? And he's like, all right, because I'm tired of yelling at you about how far behind we are.
What's a medical transcriptionist? I don't even know.
It's the people who type what the doctors say, so the doctors don't have to.
Yeah, yeah, but you're not in the room, or you're in the room with them because
No, they call those scribes, and they're moving into that because that way the doctors don't even have to touch the computers. But back in the day, they just talk into a machine, and then I get the recording and like
oh,
I was a typist.
oh,
When I got into gaming, I was playing this one game where like about every 2 minutes you had to do something real quick or you'd die, and you get to chatting in between. So I got to typing really fast. And then the hospital didn't want to pay a transcriptionist wages, so they pulled some dude in off the street and taught him what pathology words were.
I love it. Wow. All right. So how did you find me? Did you go down the Jordan Peterson rabbit hole, or how have you wound up here?
I certainly wasn't not impacted by him, but I didn't find you until recently when I came back around to help Merc with the channel.
Ah, okay.
And then you're like, what's going on in this corner of the internet? Because I've recently I left the conspiracy corner of the internet to come hang out over here. But I still, I would lean back in and go back out. And when
Sure.
COVID happened, I regressed way back into video games as a response because I was so disappointed in the truther community with their response. Like, as far as truthers go, when they order you to wear masks, it's on. It's happening, guys. And all they just kept doing what they always do is they're like, selling views. They're looking at it. They're just showing it. There's no, I mean, it's not as bad as with the mainstream media where they're holding the line, but they're just still pointing out what they're lying about, not all right, what are we going to do when we're not allowed to buy food because we didn't take the vaccine? And so I was thinking, either I'm mentally ill or these people over in this corner, like not them, you guys, like need to be more aware of how bad things really are.
Yeah.
So we can be ready for what's coming, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because come on, guys, how do you not see some of this stuff? No. Oh.
So what have you found in the Bridges of Meaning estuary? Because you're there a fair amount. I see your name and your icon.
I poke around. That's what got me into the truther thing. Really, it was the first place online I had found community. It's like because the people who watch the same shows show up in the same chats, and then and they had a Discord, and I was like, oh, okay. And so what's really fascinated me about coming in from this perspective is what you guys have going on and like what the different channel discords are looking like, where the Venn of Vervaeke people and Vanderklay people is a fascinating group. And for me, part of my quest, my holy quest, is like, hey guys, the fourth wall is falling. Like, all right, let's talk to the Peterson angle. Like, because that'll put us in a we got somewhere to go from there. Um, I was a podcast video game addict. It's like when I'm not at work, I'm, watching YouTube, playing video games, escaping life as best I can because life is going to work. And so when I first heard of him, a friend of mine from the conspiracy-ish side of life, more enlightenment than conspiracy, but he's out there. He sent me Maps of Meaning 9 is when I first heard of Peterson. So it was like, I think the controversy was popping off, but it was his old material I came into first, like, which I consider his life's work, honestly. And so I was into it. Like, I was like, I got excited because it felt like I got to watch college, um, without paying 30,000 a year to do it. This is what, like, with my mental health stuff, I had a lot of interactions with trying to get help from the system, and came out disappointed, and possibly messed up from worse from some of the pills they had me on.
Yeah.
But this guy was teaching people was what they taught those people.
Yep.
So like if the stupid doctor that was treating me missed stuff, if I go back and see what they're learning, maybe, and clearly there was a lot that wasn't coming through about masculinity and femininity, and I don't know, he's got 30, like however many hours, it's his life's work,
Yep.
And then he did the right thing. He said, I will go to jail before I let you put words in my mouth. So like, I can see our society as corrupt and twisted and run by the wrong people. And when somebody does the right thing, especially somebody that people are looking at does the right thing,
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, that's what we need more of.
Yeah.
And then I really got sunk in with the ayahuasca letter, which because I'm looking, alternative things are right sometimes. So, and I had already been looking into ayahuasca because you got this craving for God and you can't get there with all your addictions, and it's not in churches. And maybe if I take these mushrooms, I can get to something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when the ayahuasca letter came out, which I think is on like the intro to one of the Bible lectures, he's like basically saying this spirit goddess talked through this lady and said that I'm here to bring back, like, relight the spark of divine masculinity or something.
I remember that. Yep.
But it says at this time, and and so, and then he gets to the Noah part, and he talks about how the young son, one of the sons, like catches him naked in the tent. He's like, "Hey guys, he's naked in it," and like that's one of the archetypes I embody as a truther or whatever. It's like that's what we're doing. We're disclosing the dark secrets about the people in charge because we know what happens when they don't come out into the light.
Mm-hmm.
So that stuck, but he signed with CAA and took the book tour route.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, I think if it's still there in the comment on the Noah one, I'm like, I used to do something like, we're all standing here with our circumcised phalluses in our hands, waiting for you to tell us what to do. And like, all you say is clean your room and be a capitalist. So it's like, yes, he's done wonders and he's great and stuff, but at this time part, his story arc went, I took the book tour and ended up in a coma in Russia. And like, yes, it's like, honestly, the prettiest way I put it in my mind right now is that right now he's in the belly of the whale. And it's like all these lives he's touched, they have to come rescue him now by, showing everybody we have to be what's next. And so I'm watching what's happening, and like with the discords and the community, with the fourth wall crumbling, and you talking to both people like Pajot and Vanderclay and also rando strangers, is like the fourth wall collapsing. There's smart people that have been stuck in the audience that nobody can hear because So thank you for that part and this part right here.
Oh, this is I, I I'm speechless. I mean, the stuff you're putting out here, I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why I haven't. I don't know why your stuff isn't read. Because
All
you've
right.
clearly got a gift. And but
All
you're
right.
exactly right. And I bump into this all the time. The world is full of truth-telling, brilliant, articulate, beautiful people, and sometimes they're the idiots, fools, and crazy people. I mean, I'll tell you, I love my job and I love my um, status because I mean, what's nice about YouTube is that I can sort of segment whatever degree of fame I have kind of out there. Nobody in church watches my videos. My family doesn't watch my videos. So it's all sort of out there. So when I walk out this door, I'm just a regular person. And I'm just amazed at um, the brilliance that is scattered throughout in dingy places. And I don't know. And that's again, that's part of the reason it's part of the reason I believe there is a God. It's part of the reason I believe there is an afterlife. It's part of the reason I believe there is a judgment day, because if the world is so absurd that there's this much beauty that we can't see because we're in such a rush, boy, that's a dark picture if this stuff doesn't one day get brought to light. And if that's how the world is, yeah, then I'm going to be a nihilist, because that's not a world I want to live in. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I've taken it darker than nihilism. Like I've blown my mind to the point there's days and hours and whatnot. I'm not sure this isn't hell.
yeah,
Like part of the anti-suicidality clause is like, if you'll have to do it again. Like there's that line that a hero dies but one death and a coward gets 1,000 or something, and then they call suicide the coward's way out. It's like, yeah, you think this life is bad. If you quit early, you have to do 1,000 more.
yeah,
And like
yeah.
maybe this is one of the 1,000 I have to do from last time. Like when one of the things that blew my mind with regards to Christianity was if you're an immortal, like I came across one day, the notion that if you're an immortal soul, why do you think you're brand new? Um, like, and if you look for it, it's in the Bible. They talk about, is this dude come again? So,
Yeah, yeah. That idea's been around a long time.
and if that's on the table, then you just might keep waking up,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
sliding down a tube,
then we're into, trying to end the cycle, and all of those religious commitments or traditions. Hmm.
Yeah, I don't, you have an interesting take on like when the way you say gnosis and Gnosticism is different than the way I come learning it through the YouTube videos. Because mine came through McKenna, and he was
Hmm.
like, basically, they said this place is the material world is like, how Plato has his forms.
Yeah,
Like this place is so far that we shouldn't be here. We're the shadows on the wall.
yeah,
We're like the only light here. You
yeah,
shouldn't bring any more kids into it. So that
yeah,
one, they don't
yeah,
last. That philosophy will always die out.
yeah,
But they make some interesting points
yeah.
because part
Well,
of go ahead.
no, well, I was going to say, I mean, the ancient cosmology, if you read C.S. Lewis's Discarded Image, people forget that this is the lowest, well, there's Gehenna or Hades below, but we're just one step removed from Hades. That's the level. And up above the moon, then you have, these spheres of perfection. So it's, yeah, 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 yeah. we're so dim, we're so short-lived, we know so little. And there's so much out there. I mean, if people just read public domain stuff, what couldn't they learn? But we're
Why
just
read? Nobody else is.
we're just noshing on Netflix. Um, well, so I don't know. Where do you want to take this? Where do you want to go? What do you want to talk about?
Well, you talk to a whole lot of different groups of Christians.
Yeah.
And I am a person who fell into video games are better than life,
Yeah.
generally. I would like you guys, as a group of Christians, to consider a paintball league. Now, yeah, I know on the surface it's funny, but like the Catholics versus the Baptists shooting each other in paintball would get the kids in their bodies, give them a little bit of experience with urban combat just in case. But honestly, like deep down, like if I look at what has happened to human society, like I
Yeah.
pull back as far as I can.
Yeah.
And I see that, like Joseph Campbell says, we lost the rite of passage. Like the Jewish guys still do whatever they do, but like the rest of us, like there's no point when that somebody pulled me aside and say, "You're a man now," you know.
Mhm.
I mean, I got to drink and I got to drive and I got those rites of passage, but nobody said, "All right." Unless you knock somebody up and they show up at the door with the responsibility,
Hmm.
our society is such that you don't ever have to grow up.
Hmm.
You just all you have to do is go to work and pay your bills, bro. That's the extent of being a man or woman, a
Hmm.
fam. That's all we have left.
Hmm.
I mean, there is no like how many people will argue for hours and hours about the president and the Democrats and Republicans and don't know the name of their mayor or their city council?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's no civic responsibility. There's
Yeah.
like that lady in the 80s did that "Where Have All the Good Men Gone" song.
Yeah.
And nobody has put out the song "They're Over Here" since. you know and like if you go down the conspiracy route, it's because there's estrogen in the chicken. But there is studies that our testosterone levels are going down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like the American society has been sold the dupe that it's a man's world.
Yeah.
And then they've convinced our little girls that motherhood isn't what they should aim for,
Yeah. Yeah.
that raising functional human beings
Yeah.
isn't an admirable vocation.
Yeah.
And that's spiraling,
Yeah.
and it's going to keep spiraling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. We say it's a man's world, and then we tell women they should be men. It's like, what?
Like, as far as I can tell, men are the disposable guys that you throw with something and then breed with the survivors.
Oh, well, I'll tell you the paintball. The paintball is out there. The paintball is out there. My church wouldn't go over so well. There'd be actual casualties. God's waiting room. I could put that sign over the door. I'm not sure folks would appreciate it, but we usually don't appreciate the things that there's a little too much truth in to make us uncomfortable. So, so you play the sardonic gamer outcast prophet pretty well, but where do you want your life to go? I mean, you're helping out Merck, so you're in the sorting yourself out. So,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to embody that archetype if you want people to believe what you're selling.
I have come to grips with that. I'm already ready. I have to do a pap smear, the past authoring program, you know. And yeah, so I understand that that's part of the deal I'm taking on by living under this channel's moniker. Is like there's the part where like it's a disclaimer that I'm still unsorted. Like I'm still sorting, so you know, I can be embarrassing and cultivate my shamelessness, but I want these good this ven of people, these ven like these cross. It's like the you guys are starting to play the 5 elephants game, and it's very exciting as somebody who's like when I'm in zombie watch mode. It's great to see, like, you know, you're touching the elephant, the other guy's touching the elephant. It's like, look at, they're getting there. They're getting there. We're gonna see what's going on soon. It's exciting. It's what, and like watching the communities build, and because from my perspective, which is admittedly twisted compared to most, like since I socially isolated myself, and so I know what the starvation of human contact leads to more than most, and now the government's teaching you guys. And that's very, very scary to me because it does weird things to your mind. And now those like, that's happening to the mind of everybody in the country
Yeah.
because they're being forced to keep apart from each other.
Yeah.
Like we reality check with each other.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Boy, oh gosh, I love that. We're playing the 5 elephant game. But now, you know, the sorting yourself out channel, that channel has an interesting history itself because I caught it when, I mean, the first guy,
Andrew,
yeah, now we're
we're doing
playing
a thing
apostolic.
Friday.
Now we're playing apostolic succession on the sorting myself out channel. So the first guy, you know, finds Peterson and makes the, you know, genius YouTube social media ladder climbing move. I'm going to be the poster guy for Jordan Peterson sorting myself out. And so
That's the second play, honestly.
what was his first play?
His first play was Jordan Peterson. Well, I don't know if it was his first play.
Yeah.
But he came out to make fun of him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, because I know that maybe I came late, but I know that he, you know, so he, you know, he portrayed himself as, you know, living at his mom's house and smoking too much weed and gaining too much weight. And so now with Jordan Peterson, he was going to get off the weed. He was going to get a job. He was going to get a girlfriend,
Right.
yada, yada, yada.
Get sorted.
But then he had to later on admit that he had a job and he was only living at his mom's house temporarily. And the weed thing was true, but you know, and then as the channel went, because I would just check in every now and then,
Right.
you know, the levels of, you know, again, as a pastor, you know, people bullshit their pastors all the time. And there's just a whole lot of bullshitting going on in churches because you've created a status hierarchy and you gain or lose status depending on to the degree that you can fake it, period. You may never make it, but you're just going to keep faking it. So that's, you know, that's part of the game that happens in churches. So I wasn't at all surprised when he starts having these confessional videos of, well, you know, I kind of sort of got caught. I'm not really, you know, he wasn't fulfilling the archetype. And then, you know, then there were more confessional videos about, well, he was overseas and this and that. And then he gives up the channel altogether, which I thought, well, now it's interesting. But of course, the channel had picked up a following. So then, you know, other people inherit the channel. And okay, well, what's their game? What are they going to do? And then, of course, Mercury comes in, and well, I thought, well, now it's getting interesting.
Yeah. I ended up like, I guess there's this point like when the church, when the Bible series was in between episodes, right? Everybody's like theming for more hot Peterson. And so they end up following all these off channels that are giving you anything. Just a little hint, like here's a bunch of clips of him, guys. And like I get this one guy came on with I'm the guy Jordan Peterson warned you about.
Yeah, I remember
Citizen
him.
X. Yeah. He was a character. So yeah, a lot of channels got followed that way. He came out and he talked about tarot and magic. Like, a few episodes in, and that's why I kept watching the channel. And then Mercury came on. I'm like, so when Mercury came on, I'm deep in the truther community. I might have even still been trying to do my own truther channel at the time, but I'm like, this dude should be on the internet, because like he's genuinely there, as like he's just a genuine person. He's actually there for you.
Yeah.
He's actually present
Yeah.
on the YouTube. Damn it,
Yeah.
like he was embodying that. And I'm like, this guy should have his own channel.
Yeah.
And then so when him and Ryan came on, and I'm like, I have experience with channel communities.
Yeah.
Because I've been exploring this other sphere of them. And so I'm like, that could happen here, guys. And like the Discord that sprung up for you. I don't know how yours came about, but like people did Discords for the YouTube people, and a lot of them came into them later. So, well, if you're going to set it up, I'll come be here.
Yeah. So they were the guys from my local meetup. So I started my YouTube channel, and then a bunch of people in Sacramento were like, well, why don't you do a meetup? So, okay. So then we started doing the meetup, and then people were really enjoying the meetup. And then they said, well, why don't we do a Discord channel, just because so that people can get together and have some community and conversation, even if they're not local. And so actually it was sort of the second iteration that took off of the meetup of the Discord server. And I've been quite hands off. I come in on Fridays and do the little Q&A and drop in sometimes during the week, but it was Joey and Tyler and Rick and Job and Jeff who really set the thing up. And so, and it's been, I've just been really amazed by the whole thing. But I don't want to get distracted here, because so Merc, and Merc is a very interesting guy. And again, I feel bad for pastors who pastor churches in nicely tailored suburban communities. I think that would just be boring as hell. And I much rather be where I am. And because, I saw Merc, and it's like, I've known people like you. Because they're out there.
What does people like you mean there? Come on.
Well, gosh, I mean, like you, meaning the stories have patterns, and the the bipolar, the isolation. I had a guy come to my church for a while who just shows up out of the blue. I was just podcasting my Sunday school lessons. He started listening to them. I mean, maybe 5 people listen to those things, and starts coming to church, and he's a hermit. And that's the thing about a local church in a part of town that is full of group homes, because the good places in town have moved on. And so the people who just need a roof over their head, the room and boards and the group homes and the drug houses and that's the interesting place to live, because it's this other layer of society where people can speak the truth without losing status, because they don't have any. You got nothing left to lose, so they'll actually tell you what they think, and that's just remarkably refreshing, instead of telling me what they think I want to hear, which is pointless. So Merc, I found Merc interesting. And of course, anyway, and it's people like him. Yeah, there's nobody like him, but there are patterns and
there's archetypes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Merc's in there. And so then, then you show up in the server, and it's like, you're with Merc now. So, and now getting to talk to you, I'm doubly, I mean, because what do you want to turn people into? Because part of the difficulty with Peterson is that, to one degree or another, okay, you clean your room, you get the wife, you go to job, you go to work. I mean, these tapes have run before. And if you look at the 1950s, which sets up the 1960s, the 1950s are all about the company man. They're all about the mindless cog in the branded corporation. And I mean, if you read if you read history from the 50s and the kinds of thought pieces that were out in the 50s, there's all of this anxiety about being lost in this modern machine, which of course sets up, and then if Vietnam happens, and this war is, the war was sold as the great fight against communism, but it was, the corruption became just way too evident, and then we didn't know how to get out of it. And you had a president then who, oops, his burglars got caught, and on and
Oops.
on and on and on and on. So Peterson, and in some ways, so then when I watch Dave Rubin go through his transformation, it's like, wow, we're back to, I'm old enough to remember the Cold War, as is Peterson. And so, all right, we're leaving nihilism. That's good, because it's quite evident that a lot of folks, some people can sort of inhabit that space. A lot of people can't. So what you're going to help people sort themselves out to what?
Well, our general policy.
Hour. Now we're getting to the hour. Well, this
We
is
had to
getting
do a
interesting.
board.
The
Yeah.
corporate position of the YouTube channel.
Yeah, actually, we had to put something together because of reasons, but like once the money starts flowing in, things form. And
Yeah.
like he needed help with that end.
Yeah.
And so it might as well be a board and not just, and so we're trying to do it right. We hope to eventually, it's like ideally it'll be a co-op or a nonprofit, however we need to structure it. But if it's gonna continue to exist, it kind of had to be instantiated into some sort of entity, and we're moving towards that. So I say, like, we haven't filed legal paperwork yet, but we're structuring toward something that's sustainable. And so, yeah, on the board. But we have a mission statement, which essentially is how we're going to do it. It's got a bunch of, I ought to go find it and read it to you, but essentially we're using, like, once you author your stuff, you have to embody it. You have to start walking it. You have to start living it. And that's what we're helping with.
Oh, okay.
So, but we help wherever you want to aim, as long as you're willing to play by the rules, which is essentially, it's holy ground here. Okay. We're all friends. We're all trying to help each other. If you're not aiming toward that, then this isn't your house. This isn't your room. Everybody else is welcome. We're all trying to sort ourselves out together.
Yeah.
So let's see where it goes. And where it seems to be going is, like, for me, I want people to get involved in the information war. I'd like to raise the Hikikomori army of the 12 monkeys. That's my fiendish plan. But like, it happened late, but I hit about 30, 35. And I looked at my parents. It's like, okay, so for the next 40 years, I work until I die. Where's the species aiming? Well, we're either going to crawl into computers or rebel and be Amish. Maybe go to Mars, if that's even real. So I'd like to see, I want to be a part of and see what the return of the divine masculine, the rest of the return of the divine masculine looks like. If he was there to spark it off, what's it like when the men grow up and come back? I'm counting on it being Generation Z, and me lucking out and missing it, and just being able to, like, give them little warnings and point them in the right direction and help the way I can. But that's that's where I'm aiming.
Okay.
And, helping my friend, like, people that needed to started contacting him for private sessions.
Yeah.
And so those people were getting actual help. And so to the extent that I have motivation to be involved to keep this thing alive, it's, well, at least you're helping some people get actual help with your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's enough to keep me in the game as far as trying to make this channel successful or survive, really.
Yeah.
Just survive. I'm
Yeah.
not successful. But
Well, I don't know. I don't think you have to. I mean, successful is a box of a word that different things get poured into, and so I don't think you have to be. I don't think you have to be shy about that, because I think you said quite clearly what you want to help. People are working on their self-authoring program, their future authoring program, and they need help. And the truth is, if you've grown, if you've survived what you've survived, and that's at least as true for Merck, you've learned how to survive. And along the way, you've learned a ton about life. And you're exactly right that there's a reason immigrants come from nations that are supposed to be less well put together and cultures that are supposed to be backwards, and they come to this country and people line up to hire them, and their children do better in school. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason that Mercury has wisdom that you're probably not going to get from the therapist you're paying $150 an hour to. And there's a reason that you see things that nobody with a certain level of status and a place in a hierarchy will dare to say. There are reasons for that. And we don't like to admit that. So I don't think you have to be shy about success. It's probably not going to look like, Jordan Peterson's book deal. But
well,
again, and all of this is why I remain a Christian, because if there is such a thing as corruption, then there must be its opposite. And if we're wandering around in this maze of corruption all around us, why can't there be a time and a place where we will see its opposite? So I think I like your plan. I think it's a good plan.
yeah, that's the hardest thing, is like being stuck behind the fourth wall, is when you see things that you like to show people and they can't hear you. So that's why what you guys are doing is exciting to me.
Well, C.S. Lewis had this line, the door to hell is locked from the inside, which, when you kind of put your head around that, and as a pastor, and in any place in the world where people are stuck and you want to help them get unstuck, you very quickly realize that it's, arguments, they have their place, stories have their place, books have their place, videos, I mean, all that stuff has its place, but you're much more of a midwife. You'd better be a midwife and not an abortionist, because if you're going to go in, most of the time, if you're going to go in with knives and instruments, what you're going to pull out of there is going to be dead. So, and to be a midwife means to be a little patient. And so you watch for the signs, and you count the contractions, and you give little bits of advice, and they're often tricks and hacks that, maybe maybe don't lay on your back with your feet in the stirrups, but why don't you get up on that table and squat? Yeah, father of 5 babies, some of them overseas, so I know a little bit of something about this stuff. But no, I like what you're doing, and I think you're the right guy to do it. So I think it's really cool. I'm glad
That's
you're
a heck of an endorsement. Thank you.
well. I'm glad you're in the Discord community too, because my concern is to a degree what I see happening in churches, which is that certain kinds of success are the beginnings of the end. But you can't guarantee success by avoiding those signs of success either. That, part of being a Calvinist means corruption always comes. But, if you're looking one way down the street, watching out for that garbage truck of corruption, well, it could be coming from the other direction. And that's, but you know that better than most, I'm sure. So,
you hit on zombies. It's like, not the one you dropped this morning, but the one you dropped yesterday. It was like, you were speaking my language quite a bit there. I mean, I haven't quite finished the last 20 minutes, but you go on.
that's where you get the altar call. So,
oh, good. Yeah. See, that's how it always was. It's like, that's when you need to sneak out.
That's when you smuggle the Jesus. No, but yeah. Well, and
it's a lot like that for me right now. So what I see in terms of the information war, is we like the whole weird kind of zombies. Like to the extent you NPC, so you can come home and be yourself. Like the more that takes up your life, the more zombie you become. And then the whole we're eating each other's brains. Like we got some hot, delicious Peterson brain over here, boys. Ooh, here's some Vervaeke. What Vanderklay dropped today. We're like when you were talking, there's nothing left to watch.
yeah.
And like there was a tiny little part of me inside, and it was like, it's because we're supposed to live.
Yeah.
We're supposed to live, man, and meanwhile, we can help sell commercials to get by, but there's not a whole lot that we can't build a machine to do better than you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's coming on hard and fast. And like I got lucky in that I helped the hospital install the software that replaced me. So I saw it firsthand. Like this week I helped them do that. Next month, 100 people were laid off. So there's got to be, I guess maybe we can all start churches, but there's got to be something that us humans are that still has value. And it's as that reduces, it's not going to be labor.
No.
It's not menial tasks, but we're not going to sell ourselves by the hours like the girls down the street.
Right.
So
no, that's right. I was just talking to David Fuller, and Monday they were having he's the guy that, he and Ollie at Rebel Wisdom. Monday they had a thing, and it was a Zoom thing, and I told him, I said, I listened to the Weinsteins, and they've sort of when we get together and when we learn to listen, and it's usually in small little clumps, because it's got to be situational, and any clump is going to be, to one degree or another, shaped by the situation. And that could be geographically extended, like on a Discord server, or it could be geographically concentrated, like in a real life church. But the clump is both the platform in which we can learn something, and also the platform in which potential helps are deployed. And no, you're right. All these little repetitive things that we've learned to sell ourselves for are being replaced. And C.S. Lewis in I think it's in Miracles has this point where either we basically, unless we learn to level up together, we all sort of go down together. And I think we're in that. It's a process. It takes time, but we're in that process. But just imagining that a political solution is the solution. I mean, I don't know how many presidential elections do you need to watch to know that.
It was my second. I mean, I fell for Clinton, and then after that, I was like, oh wait, this whole thing is kind of suspect. But like, you know, it was his honesty about the inhale, the feigned honesty. It's like, at least this one tells the truth about something. And I think that's how other people get in.
Well, and you know, Clinton, if you look at Clinton's biography,
House of Cards on Netflix.
No. You know, Clinton's an interesting cat, and Obama to a degree too. And I mean, they're all interesting. You don't get to be president of the United States by being too boring. I don't know. So
let's cut that out and stop at the we all need to level up together line. That was
I don't edit. But because learning when to cut and redirect is an important skill in conversation. When you found you've walked yourself into a corner, it's like, all right, it's time to back up, go back to where you were, and and find the thread once more. So
yeah, there's a lot I have to learn, especially when it comes to social interaction. Like I said, I isolated myself. Well, it was neat because I was meeting people from all over the world, but you know, only in the virtual plane where we shared a screen together.
Yeah. No, and that's, well, yeah, I'm a pastor. Why don't you find a crazy little church? Learn to love them, even if they're not worthy of your love.
I'm probably gonna, you know, take this as enough excuse to go back to the I mean, I don't know, they're not called Apostolic Truth anymore, but the building's the same.
So yeah.
I think I'll head back to them tonight. They do Wednesdays,
and you know, people are such consumers when they go to church, and it's really one of the worst things they could do. You really just got to find a place that, you know, you can't stand the music, and the pastor really should have shut up after 30 minutes. And the people are quite annoying, but there's almost always, and you know this, there's almost always something there and something below. And as long as it's not completely corrupt and real harm is being done, you can almost always find something decent and something that you can live off of. So,
or at least a good bit of self-reflection when the altar call comes.
Yeah. So are you gonna write? Because boy, you sure sound like a writer when I talk to you.
It seems not worth the effort anymore. So maybe I'll have to coax myself into it. But like the appeal when I was younger was like, once you get your first book, then you can get an advance and just like live off of it while you write your second book. And
you probably won't make any money from it. That's not why you write.
No.
You should write because you should write. I always tell people, I say, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing for yourself. And so if you're going to start a YouTube channel, it doesn't matter how many people watch. If, you know, I wonder, I don't know. If nobody ever watched my channel beyond the 15 people who are watching the Freddie and Paul show, would I still be talking into it? I think if I had found 5 or 10 people that were listening and engaging back, maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
It's amazing how
I'd
much
love to
value
say,
one person is.
what's that?
It's amazing how much difference one person makes.
It is. It is. It
Mhm.
is. Wow. I think you got it right. I look at, so I take notes often when I do these little talks, and I don't know what I'm gonna entitle this talk, because you just gave me so many lines in the notes. It's like, oh, that could be a title, that could be a title, that could be a title. They just roll off your tongue. So I'm
Why
glad you're in
Christians should
YouTube
have a
land.
paintball league. But would you, if you don't mind, would you use my internet name and not my one people can sue?
I will. What I've learned in this world is that I start, Grizwald Grim. That's who you are to me.
Thank you, sir.
And because if I start playing around with 2 names, I get confused and mistakes happen. So you're just Griz.
I'm not blood to the other one, and I just haven't gotten enough resources yet to make it legal. But
well,
so I appreciate that.
This has been a pleasure. This has been, I've got to figure out how to do more of these. I got to open up the Calendly app more, and I think I will, because sometimes it's like, because I just open it up and anybody can grab a slot. And so I would be lying if there aren't times when I sort of take a deep breath before I click on Zoom, because you don't know what you're going to find. But 9 times out of 10, I'm done. And it's like, boy, I'm sure glad I did this. This fed my soul. And
well, as often as somebody has to check the calendar to get a spot, I think you're filtering pretty well with that. I hope we can talk again. And like, if you don't have room on your channel and you want to have a discussion, I will gladly run tech for you if we get to air it. Well, if like you want to talk to whoever.
Well, let's have a time that you and me and Mert can do a talk again, because that would be good. Because
Yes.
I'd love to watch you two ping off each other. That would be fun. I loved one of my favorite videos was Peugeot and Andrea and Merck. That was so good, because just in terms of who they all are, and that was so much fun. That was so much fun. So yeah,
Great. Yeah.
Now I'll come on your channel. Absolutely, that'd be fun.
I have it on recording now. Actually, I don't. Will you send this to me after?
I will send it to you.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
It's great to talk to you. And